Hello all and welcome back to a set of CAD tutorials hosted by Ishir Wadhwa and Emanuele Borlandelli for our CAS project. Today we're going to look at the third episode of Fusion 360 regarding the rendering tab. So the rendering tab is obviously used to create renders. And without further ado, let's see how it works. So first of all, what we have to do is appearance. The first thing to do is look at the appearance of the obviously of the bodies. So what I'm gonna do here is I have a ceramic bearing, a carbon fiber wheel, and a side of the of acrylic. So let me see. So I've got ceramic, which I can apply onto this one. Can remove because they're in reference component. So anyway, they're still in the same. Obviously, they're still in the same. They're still in the same. They're still in this. I mean, they have the right materials, but I just wanted to show something. So if we go and edit the materials and we go into advanced, we can obviously have different sections. You can import an image, which was like imported automatically. You can change the color, change the fade. Now the fade is basically the darkness or like the brightness of the material. The glossiness is just like how glossy it is, and it's usually you apply it a lot to to bodies rather than wheel. It's basically how like glossy and shiny it is. Non-metallic. Then reflectivity is that how much it can reflect the light. Transparency. Then obviously when you save your changes, just click on apply and then cancel. For ceramic, we just have scale and just 1 second. Oh, you can't move it. So 1 second, edit. So for ceramic, what happened is that basically you can change the rotation. That is basically like well, let me see in advance, because for instance in certain materials such as wood, you can modify the ripples, the density of ripples, and in this case you can also modify, for instance, this is the type of ceramic, this is more shiny, then the color is fine, the finish is fine. I'll just put thin, that is, less evident. No, actually this looks more realistic. But yeah, anyway, this is obviously one section of Fusion 360 that is very important. Now, I would apply, like if you're doing a very professional thing, I would click on faces and apply it on every single face rather than but let me see. Because in this case I've got all bodies. So what I'm gonna just do now is that I'm gonna just leave it for the moment. But usually what you would do is that obviously you would make it to make it very precise and accurate and realistic, you would select each individual face. The most important, I think, tab is this one, the scene settings. Here I can change the brightness, how bright I want it to be. I think, yeah, this should be enough. Maybe I'll just click 2000. 500, a bit more, actually. Yeah, this should be fine. Then the position, I can change the rotation of the shade of the light, where the light is coming from. Here it's coming from the front, here from one side, then from another side. For the time being, I think I'll just leave it at like -6. Yeah, for the time being it should be fine. Then obviously I can change it how high I want it to be. Obviously if I want it to be lower, it's not going to be obviously realistic, but I'm just going to put a reset and add a 6 degree, -6, right. Then what we have is I can change the color, which to be honest is fine right now, but for instance if I wanted to change it to white, there we go. Obviously I'm not going to do it right now because I have already a lot of white in my body, so I'm just going to select a grayish color. not black. Yeah, should be fine. Yeah, this one should be fine. Not too dark, not too bright. Then flat pattern, and then reflections. Now reflections, actually I won't select the flattened pattern, but reflections are very important because, see for instance, obviously it shows how, it basically shows how the background material is almost like a glass, and I can change obviously the roughness. Now the more I increase the roughness, the less clear the reflection is. The less I'm just gonna keep it at like 0.25. There we go. Just to make it show there is a reflection, but it's not that so clear. I can change the perspective of the camera. I usually use perspective. This is the best. Now the focal length, for ones that know how photography works, usually you have 35 millimeters, 50 millimeters. So for this case, I'll just put it at 50. When you're taking a photo, it's much better. And the exposure is just obviously how much light is it. It's almost like brightness, but brightness is more about the environment. Here it's more about like the camera. It's a tough one actually. I'll just put 11 or 12. No, I think I just put 10. Yeah, it was fine at 10 to be honest. Depth of field. Oh yeah, so this is very useful actually. So what happens here is that you have a center of focus. So say my center of focus is this point. What did I do? Oh no, I selected the wrong thing. Reset. -6. Focal length. Yeah. So what I'm gonna do right now is that I'm gonna select, for example, this point, right? Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna increase the blur, or so basically what happens is anything. Say I selected this point, anything behind that point is gonna be a bit blurred, and you can also change the degree of the blur. In this case, I'm not gonna add it just because it's really pointless, because I wanna show like all of my image. But for example, say you are photographing a person next to, for example, behind a background, behind, for example, a city or something, and you wanted to focus on the person instead of the background, you could have used this blur and blurred the background. Anyway, yeah, this should be fine. And then we can also obviously change the lighting. Now the lighting is very important. For example, I can have blue. This just changes how it sees. Now I don't like this one. The rim is fine, but I would need to change the. Yeah, I think cool light in this case is fine. And then you can have also a bunch of downloadable ones. So this is where I got to now. Yeah, should be fine obviously. Then what I can also do, I mean, I changed the materials, so here I can add a decal, which I'm not going to do right now, but it's basically you can add an image onto your design. And text map, textures, I'm not going to do it right now, but it's basically regarding reflections. And here we have, so in canvas render basically gives you a preview of your render. In canvas render settings is basically obviously how advanced you want it, the resolution, the higher the resolution the better. And then you can capture it, but basically what I'm just gonna do right now is render. Now, a bit of time, some time ago, what happened was that you had rendering on cloud and rendering on your computer. So when you render on your computer, it's worse than rendering on your cloud. See, you have cloud render and local render. I always cloud render because local render changes. First of all, local render, if you change the perspective, you have to reinitiate all your process again. And second of all, local render takes into account your computer. What I mean by that is that, say for instance, I have the rendering gallery open, and I render it. The rendering with the gallery open is different with the rendering of the gallery closed. Whereas on the cloud, it's always the same. and also it takes into account also how good your computer is. Whereas Cloud Render, like, it's just a better option. So I'm just gonna open it. Cloud Render, image size. I can customize the width and the aspect cloud ratio. Um, well, I won't talk about that too much, to be honest. And the exposure is native. But basically, there's also another option in which I think it's one more credit. You require one more credit. But in Pool Words, what happens is you can blur everything in the background except for your body, which is good, but not ideal for us now. So I'm just gonna render, and you can see it appears here. It says submitted a minute ago. Just gonna see my rendering settings actually, how good in Canvas. I did fast, lock view. Obviously, if you want to change the view, say I wanted to do this design, right? And then this perspective. Then I change it to this perspective or this perspective. Wherever my orientation in the computer is, that's what the rendering orientation will be like. This is an example of what I did a few months ago, I think. So obviously this wasn't the best quality because obviously I wasn't too much of an expert, and plus the materials were very different. But yeah, this was an example. Um, yeah. So basically this was the third episode of Fusion 360. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and thank you very much.